Chapter 1. Shattered Trust. Aleksey Smirnov, a 32-year-old auto mechanic, lived a quiet life in Sosnovka, a small town nestled in a valley surrounded by dense pine forests. The town was the kind of place where everyone knew each other's business, where gossip spread faster than the morning mist. Aleksey's life was unremarkable but deeply satisfying. He worked at Petrov's Auto Repair, a modest shop on the edge of town, where he spent his days elbow-deep in engines, coaxing life back into rusted carburetors and worn-out transmissions. His hands, calloused and stained with grease, were his pride, a testament to his skill and dedication. At night he returned to a small wooden house on the outskirts, its walls lined with bookshelves and old photographs, a sanctuary he shared with Marina, the woman he loved. Marina was everything to him. They had been together for 5 years, their relationship a tapestry of shared moments. Lazy Sunday mornings with coffee and pancakes, long walks through the forest, and quiet evenings by the fireplace where they dreamed of a future together. Aleksey had saved for months to buy a ring, a simple silver band with a small sapphire that reminded him of Marina's eyes. He planned to propose on their anniversary, imagining her smile as he slipped the ring onto her finger. The thought warmed him even on the coldest nights, but fate is rarely kind to those who dare to dream. On a crisp autumn evening, Aleksey finished his shift early. The shop had run out of a crucial part for a customer's truck, and his boss, old man Petrov, waved him off with a grunt. Aleksey saw it as a chance to surprise Marina. Maybe they'd order pizza, watch an old movie, or just talk until the stars came out. He stopped by the local market, picking up a bottle of her favorite red wine, his heart light with anticipation. As he approached the house, something felt off. The living room light was on, but the curtains were drawn, unusual for this time of day. He turned the key quietly, not wanting to startle her, and stepped inside. The air was heavy with the scent of her perfume, but there was another smell cologne, sharp and unfamiliar. Then he heard it. Muffled voices from the bedroom, a low laugh, and the unmistakable sound of intimacy. His stomach twisted, but he forced himself to move forward, each step heavier than the last. The bedroom door was ajar. In the dim light, he saw Marina, her dark hair spilling over the pillow, entwined with a man he didn't recognize at first. Their bodies moved together, oblivious to the world. Aleksey froze, his breath caught in his throat. The wine bottle slipped from his hand, shattering on the hardwood floor, the sound cutting through the air like a gunshot. Marina's head snapped up, her eyes meeting his. For a moment there was no guilt, no apology, just a cold, defiant stare. The man scrambled to cover himself, muttering something incoherent. Aleksey's mind reeled, but he recognized him now. Pavel Kovalyov, the owner of Kovalyov Motors, the largest car dealership in Sosnovka. Pavel was a local celebrity, known for his flashy suits, expensive cars, and a reputation for charming anyone who crossed his path. "Aleksey, it's not what you think," Marina said, her voice flat, as if rehearsed. But her actions betrayed her words. She climbed out of bed, pulling on a robe, and began packing a suitcase with mechanical precision. Pavel, still fumbling with his shirt, avoided Aleksey's gaze. Aleksey stood rooted to the spot, unable to speak, his world crumbling around him. Within an hour, Marina was gone, leaving behind only a half-empty closet and the echo of her footsteps. The house felt like a tomb, the silence suffocating. Aleksey sank to the floor, surrounded by shards of glass and a spreading pool of wine, his heart as broken as the bottle. The days that followed were a haze of pain and disbelief. Aleksey called in sick to work, unable to face the pitying looks of his co-workers. He barely ate, surviving on black coffee and the occasional cigarette, a habit he'd quit years ago, but now revived. At night he sat on the porch, staring at the stars, replaying every moment of their relationship, searching for signs he'd missed. Had she been unhappy? Had he failed her? The questions gnawed at him, but no answers came. Friends tried to help. His best friend, Dima, brought over a case of beer and sat with him in silence, knowing words wouldn't heal the wound. Others offered clichés. "You'll find someone better," or "she wasn't worth it." But their voices sounded distant, like they were speaking through a fog. Aleksey tried drowning his pain in vodka, but it only sharpened the edges of his grief. One night, staring at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, his face gaunt, eyes bloodshot. He reached a breaking point. The anger he'd suppressed began to bubble up, transforming into something colder, more deliberate. He didn't want to hurt Marina physically. That wasn't who he was. But he wanted her to feel the same betrayal, the same emptiness that now consumed him. Revenge, he decided, would be his salvation. Chapter 2. First Steps. Aleksey's first move was to gather intelligence. He needed to understand who Pavel Kovalyov was and what made him tick. Sosnovka was a small town, and information traveled fast. Pavel was a big fish in a small pond, his dealership a cornerstone of the local economy. Kovalyov Motors sold everything from budget sedans to luxury SUVs, and Pavel's charm had made him a favorite among the town's elite. But whispers followed him, stories of affairs, broken promises, and a trail of discarded lovers. Aleksey saw an opportunity in Pavel's weakness. Direct confrontation was out of the question. Pavel had money, connections, and a reputation that shielded him from consequences. Aleksey, a mechanic with no influence, needed a subtler approach. He decided to infiltrate Pavel's world, to get close enough to strike where it hurt most. The plan was risky but clear. Get a job at Kovalyov Motors, learn everything he could about Pavel, and use that knowledge to dismantle his life. Aleksey created a new identity. Anton Sokolov, a mechanic with a fabricated resume boasting experience at shops in neighboring towns. He was careful to keep the details vague but plausible, knowing his skills would speak for themselves. He applied for a job at the dealership, dressing in his cleanest work clothes and practicing a confident smile. The interview was with Victor, the dealership's manager, a gruff man with a no-nonsense attitude. Victor grilled him on engine diagnostics and transmission repairs, and Aleksey answered with ease, his years of experience shining through. By the end of the week, he was hired on a trial basis. The dealership was a different world from Petrov's cramped garage. Kovalyov Motors was all glass and chrome, with polished floors and the constant hum of activity. Salesmen in sharp suits pitched cars to customers, while mechanics worked in a state-of-the-art garage. Aleksey kept his head down, focusing on his work, but his eyes were always on Pavel. The man was a study in contrasts, charismatic in public, barking orders at employees behind closed doors, generous with clients, but dismissive of those beneath him. Aleksey noted every detail: Pavel's schedule, his habits, the way he flirted with female clients without a hint of subtlety. To blend in, Aleksey made allies among the staff. He was friendly but reserved, sharing just enough to seem approachable without drawing suspicion. His most valuable connection was Katya, the receptionist, a 20-something with a sharp wit and an insatiable appetite for gossip. Over coffee breaks, she spilled secrets about everyone in the dealership, from the sales manager's gambling debts to the janitor's secret crush. Aleksey steered the conversation toward Pavel, and Katya didn't disappoint. She confirmed what he'd heard. Pavel was a serial cheater, meeting women at hotels, bars, and even his own office after hours. Marina, it seemed, was just his latest conquest. Aleksey's plan began to take shape. He would use Pavel's infidelity to drive a wedge between him and Marina, letting their relationship implode under the weight of mistrust. But he needed to be patient, to build his case carefully. He started small, planting seeds of doubt through Katya. During one lunch break, he casually mentioned seeing Pavel at a local cafe with a blonde woman, describing her just vaguely enough to spark curiosity. Katya's eyes lit up, and by the next day, the rumor was circulating among the staff. Aleksey watched as it spread, a spark waiting to ignite. Chapter 3. Sowing Discord. Aleksey's strategy was like a slow-burning fuse. He knew Marina still clung to the idea of a perfect life with Pavel, her knight in a tailored suit. To destroy that illusion, he needed to make her doubt everything she believed about him. The rumors through Katya were just the beginning. Aleksey needed something more tangible, something that would hit Marina where it hurt. He started leaving anonymous notes for Marina. The first was slipped into her mailbox at the apartment she now shared with Pavel, a sleek modern building in the center of town. The note was typed on a library computer to avoid any trace. Ask Pavel who he was with at the Golden Anchor last Friday. The Golden Anchor was a high-end restaurant where Pavel often took clients and, as Aleksey had learned, his lovers. The note was vague but pointed, designed to gnaw at Marina's insecurities. The second note came a week later. "Your man isn't as faithful as he seems. Check his phone." Aleksey had taken a risk to make this one believable. One evening, when Pavel left his phone on his desk during a meeting, Aleksey seized the opportunity. He sent a flirty text to a client Pavel had been seen with, a woman named Irina who frequented the dealership. The message was innocuous enough to seem plausible, but suggestive enough to raise questions. "Can't stop thinking about last night. Same time this week." He deleted the sent message from Pavel's phone, but knew Marina would check his texts eventually. She was already growing suspicious, her calls to Pavel more frequent and her tone sharper. Aleksey's work at the dealership gave him a front-row seat to the fallout. He overheard Marina's heated phone calls, her voice trembling with anger as she demanded explanations. Pavel, unaccustomed to being questioned, responded with irritation, his charm giving way to defensiveness. The cracks in their relationship were widening, and Aleksey felt a grim satisfaction. To keep the pressure on, he began collecting evidence. Using a cheap burner phone, he snapped photos of Pavel meeting women at various locations: a bar, a hotel lobby, a secluded park bench. He recorded snippets of conversations when Pavel bragged to colleagues about his conquests, his arrogance making him careless. Aleksey stored everything on an encrypted flash drive hidden in a locked drawer at home. Each piece of evidence was a weapon, waiting for the right moment to be deployed. He also deepened his alliance with Katya, feeding her just enough gossip to keep the rumor mill turning. He mentioned seeing Pavel with a fancy model type at a hotel, knowing Katya would embellish the story. Soon the dealership was buzzing with talk of Pavel's infidelity, and Marina couldn't escape it. She started visiting the dealership unannounced, her eyes scanning for signs of betrayal. Aleksey watched from the garage, his face a mask of indifference, but inside he was orchestrating every move. Chapter 4. The Climax. The final act required precision. Aleksey had learned that Pavel was regularly meeting Vera, a model from a nearby city, at the Golden Anchor. Vera was everything Marina wasn't: glamorous, confident, and unattached. Pavel couldn't resist showing her off, and their meetings were brazenly public. Aleksey saw his chance to deliver a devastating blow. He crafted a plan to ensure Marina would catch Pavel in the act. Using another anonymous note, he invited her to the Golden Anchor, under the pretense of a meeting with an old friend, Lena, whom Marina hadn't seen in years. The note, typed and left in her mailbox, was convincing. "Marina, I'm in town for one night and would love to catch up. Meet me at the Golden Anchor, 8 p.m. Friday. Lena." Aleksey knew Marina's curiosity and nostalgia would draw her to the restaurant. On the night of the setup, Aleksey was there, seated at a corner table with a clear view of the entrance. He wore a cap and kept his head low, blending into the crowd. At 8:05, Marina walked in, her face expectant but nervous. Her eyes scanned the room, then froze as they landed on Pavel, sitting at a candlelit table with Vera. Their hands were intertwined, and Pavel's laugh carried across the room. Marina's expression shifted from confusion to fury. She stormed over, her voice rising with each step. "Pavel, what the hell is this?" she demanded, her words slicing through the restaurant's hum. Vera looked startled, pulling her hand away, while Pavel stammered, his face flushing. The argument escalated quickly, Marina's accusations drawing the attention of every patron. Someone pulled out a phone, recording the scene, and Aleksey knew it would spread like wildfire. But he wasn't done. Over the next few days, he sent his collection of evidence photos, recordings, and screenshots to Victor, the dealership manager, using an anonymous email address. Victor, who had long resented Pavel's arrogance, didn't hesitate to act. He forwarded the materials to a local journalist, and within a week, a scathing article appeared in the Sosnovka Gazette, detailing Pavel's affairs and questionable business practices. The fallout was swift. Clients cancelled orders, suppliers pulled out, and Kovalyov Motors teetered on the brink of bankruptcy. Chapter 5. Emptiness. Marina was left with nothing. Pavel, humiliated and facing financial ruin, blamed her for the scandal and threw her out. She was alone, her dreams of a glamorous life with him shattered. Desperate, she turned to Aleksey, showing up at his house one rainy evening. Her eyes were red from crying, her voice pleading. "Aleksey, I made a mistake. Please, can we talk?" He stood in the doorway, the rain drumming on the porch roof. For a moment he saw the woman he'd loved, the one he'd planned a future with, but that woman was gone, replaced by someone who had chosen betrayal. "You made your choice," he said, his voice steady but cold, and closed the door. Revenge had been executed flawlessly, but it brought no joy. Aleksey felt hollow, the satisfaction of his victory fleeting. He had destroyed Marina and Pavel, but the pain in his heart remained. The house, once filled with warmth, was now a reminder of what he'd lost. He sold it, quit his job at the dealership, and left Sosnovka without looking back. In a new city, hundreds of miles away, Aleksey started over. He found work at another auto shop, rented a small apartment, and began rebuilding his life. The stars were the same, but the memories they carried were different now. He thought of Marina sometimes, not with anger, but with a quiet sorrow. Revenge had given him control, but it couldn't fill the void. Somewhere in the distance he hoped for healing, for a day when trust might return. Until then he moved forward, one step at a time, leaving the past behind.